This signature series event was so epic that I had some of my slabs cracked in order to participate. Hey there, today I have a CGC Signature Series unboxing, and in this video I'm going to open up these packages that I received back from CGC that include 5 books that I submitted to the Wolverine Anniversary Signature Series event. This was the event that I've been waiting for to participate in, that featured creators Chris Claremont, Joseph Rubinstein, and Frank Miller. Now, the rest of the creative team also participated, but I focused on those 3 creators, and I submitted these 5 books specifically to have those 3 creators sign each of these books. Now, when I start to unbox these, you'll see right away which books I ended up sending in, but it was a mixture of 2 different submissions. There was one submission of 3 books that I sent through the Palm Beach comic presser, where he evaluated these books, cleaned, pressed them, even created window bags for me and sent them off to CGC for the event. A different submission, though, I had 2 already slabbed books that were graded by CGC. This was the first time that I sent in slabs to CGC where they needed to go ahead and crack those slabs, remove the book, have those books signed, and then put into a new case with a yellow label. Now, the question that I had was, will the grade be retained? And I think everybody that I talked to about this said yes. Whatever grade that has been given on the blue label book, that grade will be transferred to the yellow label. Now, I don't know how that's possible. If Frank Miller is, maybe he decides to read my copy or fold it in half or something after he signs it, and does whatever Frank Miller wants to do, which is fine. But does that automatically mean that I would get my old grade transferred to the new one? I know that the creators are very careful as they're signing, but who really knows if the books are handled so perfectly that the original grade can be maintained? So I want to get these open and show you which books I sent in. And I'll talk about the 3 books that I sent to Palm Beach Comic Presser and his assessed grades, some of his grader notes, and then we'll look at the 2 books that I sent in that were already slabbed to see if their grades ended up making it to the new signed version of the books. So that'll be interesting for me if I do this in the future, because I have hesitated to send in particularly 9/8 because I'm concerned that my 9/8 wouldn't get the 9/8 after signature. So I want to go ahead and get these unpacked and show you the books that I ended up sending in. I do have a photo here that I wanted to share. Maybe this is kind of a giveaway, but this is actually a picture of me at Golden Apple Comics in Southern California. And I got to be probably 10, 11 years old, maybe. And I had to have this photo taken of me with the recreation of Wolverine #1 there on the wall. And I've kept this photo with me. This was me visiting the comic book store, picking up some back issues from Golden Apple back in the day. And I always remember seeing this image of Wolverine on the side of the store, where me being a Marvel fan, like most Marvel fans, loving the X-Men, and particularly loving that Frank Miller Wolverine #1. And it actually took me many years to acquire that book. And now the kid in me is still super excited to be in the hobby collecting comics and experiencing it now as an adult in a number of different ways, including participating in the Signature Series events. It's time now to unbox these and show you which books I sent in for the Wolverine Anniversary CGC Signature Series event. Okay, so 2 different packages here. As I mentioned, there's one for the 2 slabs that I sent in directly to CGC, and then the 3 books that I sent through Palm Beach Comic Presser that he forwarded on to CGC on my behalf. So I want to open up the 2 books that I sent that were already slabbed. and I will discuss the grades originally with the grades that the books ended up with to kind of see how that process is like. So these are the two books, and I have not seen the grades for these, so I don't know the final grades. Obviously, I know the grades of the two books that were already slabbed, but still don't know the final grade, and do want to do these in a certain order. So let's take a look at the first book, and this is, probably the photo was probably a giveaway for which books I sent in here, but this is Wolverine number 2. This is the Wolverine Limited Series, his original first solo series, written by Chris Claremont, penciled by Frank Miller, with inks by Joseph Rubinstein. And this was a book that I originally purchased already slabbed in a CGC 9.8. It might have been the very first already slabbed comic that I bought when I got back into the hobby around 2019, before I was even submitting books to CGC, because I really thought that this was a good deal, and I knew at that time when I saw this that I wanted to collect all 4 books in as high grade possible, hopefully to have all 4 in a CGC 9.8. And I thought there's no better way to start than getting a book that's already been slabbed. And I really felt like at the time it was a good purchase, a good pickup. So when I reveal what I ended up paying for the book originally, that was the price that I paid for this book already in a blue label. And so this was my hesitation, is should I get a raw copy and send it in for the signing and kind of roll the dice and see what grade it gets, or already go ahead and send in my 9.8 copy. This book, like all the books in this limited series, has a very specific color palette for the cover. A very specific color is chosen for the background, and they all have their reasons for why they kind of carry defects because of those solid colors and just the wear and the popularity of the limited series. But here we go. This is the first book out of the 5 in this unboxing. Wolverine Limited Series number 2 from 1982, and its final grade is a 9.8. Awesome, very cool. And I'm just checking out the signatures here. This is really great. The reason that I chose just the specific 3 creators instead of the whole team is there is, to my opinion, kind of a diminishing returns once you get beyond the writer, the penciler, illustrator, inker, the core creative team, in terms of what it costs to acquire the signatures when you're paying the signing fee. It was already very expensive for these 3 legendary creators to sign the book, and it's not meant with any disrespect for the other creators. I would have loved to have their signatures on the book as well, but for the total cost and the total fees, there is kind of a drop-off at some point where there's just so many signatures on the book that I feel like you start to really reduce the number of people that would be interested in a book like this. And what I mean is there's, I think, fewer collectors that are out there demanding or holding out for that one 9.8 that has every single creator imaginable, everyone responsible for Wolverine or this limited series. And I think most general mainstream collectors that love this, they want to have Claremont and Miller on a signature series book, at least one, if not both. And then I added Joe Rubinstein because, again, the inker also playing a pivotal role in the finished artwork. Now, you could argue the colorist also plays a role in that, but again, there's a drop-off in terms of the, I don't want to say desirability, but it's really just the interest in the book, the value in the book, when you have that many signatures or that many participants in the signature series event. Now, the other thing too is I was kind of worried about the placement. If I was getting 7, 8 signatures, at some point you kind of run out of space, but obviously that's just kind of a nitpicky thing. But there it is. It's Wolverine number 3, my original CGC 9.8 coming back as a 9.8 signature series, yellow label. And another thing too, you've got the 3 main creators here on the label. CGC doesn't list out every single person responsible for the book. They usually cap it at the inker as well. And so I love consistency between the actual signatures, the names of the creators that signed the book at the top, and then the official CGC label with the designation of those creators. So a lot of consistency here between those three individuals that signed this copy. This next book was also a book that I purchased already slabbed by CGC, and I picked up this copy at Heritage Auctions probably about a year or so ago, and it is Wolverine Limited Series #1, one of my favorite comic books, going all the way back to when that original photo was taken of me as a kid outside of Golden Apple Comics. And I had been slowly trying to upgrade this book. I had a raw copy, and then I believe I had won a CGC 9.2 off of Hakes Auctions, and I thought I got a pretty good deal on the 9.2 at the time. And then after I picked up the 9.2, I was trying to decide if I should send that raw copy in for grading to see if I could get an upgrade over the 9.2 and then potentially sell the 9.2 in kind of an upgrade process. And then found this copy on Heritage Auctions in a 9.6, and I don't think I paid that much more than I did for the 9.2, or there just was not as much of a gap as I had thought. So bought the 9.6 and then ended up selling the 9.2 for more than what I paid at Hakes, and then I kind of, thinking about it a little bit backwards or retroactively, had used some of the profit, if you will, from the 9.2 sale to apply it to this 9.6 purchase. So I don't do that very often, but it is kind of a fun experiment to play the upgrade game, where if you find a lower grade at a decent price or undervalued or at auction, and you're able to kind of flip it and keep upgrading, it's kind of a fun experiment. It does take a lot of time and energy and planning to do that. And I wasn't necessarily planning on doing this with Wolverine #1, but it just ended up kind of working out that way. So this too was a book that I picked up already slabbed, sent it to CGC in that slab with that grade, and this was a 9.6. So I picked it up Blue Label CGC 9.6 and submitted this book for the Signature Series event. Here it is, Wolverine Limited Series #1 from 1982, and it retained the 9.6. Awesome. Very cool. God, just gorgeous with the three signatures on it. Oh, and I love this one. I just noticed too. So Claremont, who normally signs in the trade dress when he's signing, so he would normally sign here, but I actually like that he left the trade open. He actually signed on the claws, and he used almost like a purple or maroon type of ink. I didn't specify the ink color, but it looked like he was trying to match the book here. So the color of the ink in the claws, it's matching that purplish, reddish maroon type of color that was used on Wolverine's costume. So this is fantastic, amazing. And there it is, years in the making, decades in the making, finally, to get Wolverine #1 slabbed and signed by the three main creators. Just fantastic. I love it. So yeah, this was kind of a known quantity. Obviously the 9.6, I think it is a valid 9.6 with a little bit of color break by the staple, just a couple of minor ticks. But these two books, well, obviously the 9.8, but this one specifically, I didn't want to have this cracked and pressed and all of that. I just wanted to go ahead and lock in the 9.6. And again, what I've learned is validated. The feedback that I got was the grade that you're sending into CGC, if they do end up cracking the slab per your submission, which they did charge a minor fee for doing that, then the grade should be retained, and it was for both of these books. So that's awesome that I have both of my slabs now back with the three signatures. Okay, so you can probably see where this is headed. However, there are 3 books in here, and there are 4 issues in the limited series. So there will be one duplicate, and there may have been a little foreshadowing earlier with the reveal of the last slab here. All right, so let's work our way backwards, and yes, it is Wolverine #4, this entire series from 1982, and this, along with the other 2 books in this submission, were sent through the Palm Beach comic presser. And he offers a number of services, one of which I took advantage of in this submission, which is he will create window bags for you. So I took him up on that service, and not only is Palm Beach Comic Presser a great presser and a great person to deal with, and it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know him, his willingness to kind of go the extra mile with things like window bags, pre-screens, and just little stuff. I'm a very paranoid collector too, and so like I'll bother him and say, when you're submitting these books, please make sure that on the outside of the package you're putting the creator initials per the instructions by CGC, and all of that stuff. And he takes care of all of those little details for me, and I really, really appreciate it. Now, getting to the book and the grade itself, for this specific book, I think I had given all of these 3 books I'd sent him somewhere in the range of a 9.94. Again, looking at blemishes and other minor defects that I was hoping a clean and press could kind of just smooth out. The reality is, though, at this point, the kind of cat's out of the bag. I want Wolverine Limited Series 1 through 4 signed by the 3 creators and also slabbed by CGC in as high a grade possible. I would love to have all 4 in a 9.8, but I'm also just happy to have all 4 as is. And I knew that if I was going to max out the grade, whatever the end grade would end up being, that I would need to send this for pressing. And rather than going through the CGC presser, I absolutely would much rather go through a presser that I've gotten to know, who I know does great work. Now, Palm Beach Comic Presser's grader notes on this one. He did notice a minor dent, blunt of the bottom spine from the back, and then also a vertical line that he was noting would be should be considered a print defect. So he was estimating a 9.6 on this one, which again would be great because that would get the grade bump over my original assessed grade. But let's take a look. Wolverine number 4 from 1982, and it got a 9.6. Awesome. Now, one thing I noticed too is that Rubenstein is signing these books in kind of a fun spot. So the Wolverine 2, at first, I noticed his signature is kind of here at the bottom. And then for Wolverine 1, he signed in Wolverine's hair. And for 4, he signed right here on the crossbow. So he was having some fun with the Signature Series event. And Claremont, again, mixing up the ink color, Miller right across the chest, where Miller's signature is really just sort of blending in. It's not really disrupting the art too much. But love it. Really appreciate the upgrade on this Palm Beach presser. Yeah, book looks amazing. So really great work there. There it is, issue 4. And now we're missing 1 issue to complete the set. Now, Wolverine number 3 that I'm going to show here in a second, this one is particularly tough as it features a really, really dark all-black cover and image of Wolverine here in the shadows. But this is Wolverine Limited Series number 3. I really didn't know what to make of this one or what grade I was going to end up with on this one, just because this book is so tough to have in a high grade. And Palm Beach did provide some grader notes on this one. He said the back top outside corner has some slight wear. So in his opinion, it looks like the book is structurally pretty good, but one of the corners just may have a little bit too much wear, where CGC may not be able to give it the 9.8. And so his assessed grade is 9.6/9.8, which again, I appreciate it. He's saying it has a chance, but more realistically, this will also get a 9.6, which I'd be very happy with, as again, that is an upgrade over the raw grade, my raw assessment before sending it to him. So let's see, Wolverine number 3, and it got a 9.8. Wow. Love Wolverine number 1. Absolutely, like hands down, one of my favorite comics of all time. But this is pretty special here to be able to get this book in a 9.8. I love the Rubenstein signature here on Wolverine's sleeve. And then the silver ink Frank Miller and Chris Claremont signature. Wow, this looks absolutely stunning with a 9.8. The all dark background. And I see the corners having that slight wear. And it's interesting, he's talking about the outside corner, and yeah, I do see it. It's just slightly worn with just a little bit of color loss, but they went ahead and gave it the 9.8 because I really thought that the spine itself was in just great shape, sharp edges, unbelievable, really, to have this one. That it's just there's so many opportunities for this book to get nicked and dinged all over the place, and whatever that would be, that would show up on the book. Stunning, absolutely stunning. Great work, Palm Beach. Thank you so much for working on this book. Really incredible to have that book in a 9.8. Fantastic. Very, very pleased and happy with that. Okay, here we go. So this is the last book. This was a book, obviously, I sent raw to Palm Beach Comic Presser. When I was talking about sort of my upgrade process, I mentioned that I had a raw book, a raw copy of this comic, and I just hesitated. I kept looking at it, kept going back and forth, and I had originally assessed the book as a 9.0, and so I really just wasn't sure if that was going to be my upgraded copy over the Slabbed 9.2. And I am talking about Wolverine #1. This is the second copy that I sent in for the Signature Series event. And this was my raw copy that I bought from Mile High Comics. And I sent it to Palm Beach Comic Presser to have him take a look at it and do some work on it before sending it in. And was really just hedging my bets at this point. I wanted to get at least the 9.6 signed, and then I wanted to take a shot to see if it would be possible to get a 9.8. Or go ahead and have a second copy in a 9.6 that I could kind of decide if I wanted to keep or sell, or just look at the signature placement because the book was so important to me where I could keep my favorite of the two. I hadn't mentioned this yet, but I don't know how many more Signature Series events Claremont and Miller are going to be doing, and if they were going to do them separately, I'd have to send the books in a couple of times. Just the fact that they were there together signing at the same time, I just don't know if we'll ever see that again. And I went back to my short box and looked at the raw copy and just said, I know it's the guarantee 9.6, and that's a fantastic grade for that book with the 3 signatures. I'd be very happy with that. But I did want to roll the dice one more time with this and see if I could get this book, as I mentioned, upgraded at least in that 9.6 range and have a shot at a 9.8. Now, there are no grader notes on this from Palm Beach Comic Presser. He did give his grade, and it's making me a little bit nervous. His assessed grade is 9.8/9.6. Now, it's in reverse order of the issue 3, where he said he thinks it's a 9.6 but has a shot at 9.8. And when he does this in this order, I believe he's saying it should be a 9.8, but you never know with CGC. It could be a 9.6. We're really splitting hairs here, or splitting hairline spine ticks, as I like to call them. But this is it. All my fingers and toes are crossed at this point. Wolverine Limited Series #1 from 1982, and it got a 9.6. All right, so that was the whole point. The point was to try and get at least a matched grade on the 9.6, if not a 9.8. Of course, some mild disappointment that I didn't get the 9.8 on this one. But still, at this point, you've got the 3 signatures on it. Claremont, again, matched the signature color with the costume. And looking at the book, just as I looked at my 9.6, it was already slabbed as a 9.6. I think a 9.6 is fair. I think for me, I do see the same issue that the other one has, although this one is a little bit more pronounced right next to the staple here, where there is a color-breaking tick next to the staple, so somewhere next to that staple. And then also just a touch of corner wear here. Again, I wanted to take a shot. I didn't know if it was a true 9.8 candidate, but really appreciate Palm Beach Comic Presser getting the upgrade up from the 9.0 that I had originally assessed it, because even with those defects, it did have some waviness to the book that I remember him smoothing out for me. So there it is, 9.6. Ended up with 2 9.6s on that Wolverine #1. And now I have the full 1 through 4 graded, signed by Chris Claremont, Frank Miller, Joseph Rubinstein. Just, it's super cool. I keep looking back. I'm going to spend some time just appreciating the books, looking at them, displaying them. Really, really happy. Thank you, Palm Beach Comic Presser, for making this all possible to get these in the highest grade possible. Thank you to CGC. Thank you, Mr. Miller, Mr. Claremont, and Mr. Rubinstein, for taking the time to participate in this event, as you're able to sign comic books for me and a number of collectors that have appreciated your work over the years, and now have this great 4-issue limited series plus a bonus issue number 1 that will now end up being one of the centerpieces of my personal collection. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.